to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah.
Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life for truly, beloveds, on your own terms, in your own narrative, and you're figuring out the truth for yourself, because we are in a season where they are trying to, a lot of you guys have emailed me, they're trying to re-enslave Africa, they're gonna put Africa back in slavery, and the only way that works is mental, unless they override or they reinforce the mental programming that they have over us right now, is the only way that they can put us back into, the dark ages for another 1,000 years. But that is not our plan. And that is not our agenda, but because, as I keep saying, the ancestors are back, the ancient ones are back. We are in a new season for Africa. It's not about you. It's not about what you believe or don't believe. You are not that important. And I think that's something we need to recognize as individuals, especially if you are not on the side of Mama Earth. I told you, always ask yourself, why should you be found approved? Why should Mama Earth save you? Why should Gaia save you? Why should Tiamat save you? Why should the ancient ones and the ancestors come to your rescue? Have you found yourself approved? And to find yourself approved is your thinking. Are you always expanding? Are you willing to be courageous enough to go beyond the colonialism of your mind, the mental colonialism that you've been under for generations? That is really a stronghold. And, the reason I bring this up is because someone shared a story with me about how Nigeria, and by the way, I'm not picking on Nigeria. Please, guys, don't come at me. But they were trying to explain to me why 200 or however many there were, Nigerians, youth would want to fight on the side of Ukraine. And I didn't actually know this. But back in 2015, Nigeria built the biggest statue of Muzungu Jesus in Africa. Now, that is a major altar. That is a major altar, and it was actually built by a businessman. He was said to unveil what he says was Africa's largest statue of Jesus, describing it as a symbol of peace in the country, racked by Islamist insurgents, blah, 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 blah. And the statue, which is 28 feet tall, damn, is called Jesus the Greatest. And actually, it was built by a Chinese company. They must think we're so crazy. And, he's standing, you can see his picture here, standing barefoot with his arms outstretched. And it weighs 40 tons. And it was standing over this Catholic church. And you see, beloveds, and it talks about how pilgrims will come from all over Africa to see this thing. But when we look at the numbers don't lie. Christianity is not as widespread as they'd like us to believe. The religious psychosis is not all over Africa. But there are certain stronghold nations. And when you look at those particular nations, you'll also see that they're the ones who are really pushing the Babylon agenda across the continents. And so, there was a recent study that was done that said by an American research group that suggested Christians in various denominations and sects would be steadily rising in Africa and could dominate the faith numerically by 2060. I mean, these guys, so much will have happened by 2060. That's not what's going to happen. But the reason I found this article interesting is because they were trying to show, they said that in 2015, out of the top 10 Christian populations across the world, only 3 were in Africa. It was Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ethiopia. And I think Ethiopia gets a pass because they have their whole, they're still in their religion. They're still in their spiritual thing. They don't worship no Mzungu Jesus, but you can see why there's so much turmoil, conflict, confusion in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in Nigeria. And so they were saying that, overall there's like 2.3 billion Christians. And the most important thing is where they were saying it would rise. Because they were saying 6 main countries would become, strongholds of the Christian religion, would see Christianity grow exponentially. And these 6 countries were Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and Ethiopia. You see how that's like the Horn of Africa, the East African region? And this shows you where they've built their strongest altars as well. But those 6 nations are the nations that we should be watching for implementing the New World Order agenda, beloveds. Because they are totally deep in the religious psychosis, from the president to the cleaner. And that's something one of my fellow awakened Africans were telling me. It's a lonely place in Africa when you know what's going on. There's so few awakened ones in different countries, but you'll be surprised sometimes when you go to the village, which is not so much touched by the church. There's a different vibe, although everything was taken from us, so people don't know where to put. They don't have a foundation to build their own kind of spiritual practices, and we are a deeply spiritual people. But beloveds, as Africa transforms itself, we can see that there'll be the greatest challenges, the greatest contentions will be in Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, which is the Horn, and Ethiopia, which they say is actually the Holy Land. Let me just put it like that. I don't even know how to say. I mean, that's where Mount Zion is. It is the Holy Land. And what we'll see then, because beloveds, the change must come. The change is here. The change is going to come. And the change is going to require removing a lot of these foreign altars that were put over ancient grave sites, that were put over our own shrines, our own spiritual sites. And I think in the majority of the countries, especially like in the Southern Africa, where, shout out to Credo Mutua, one of the greatest seers of our generation. Please look up the great, interviews. He even got interviewed by David Icke, where he talked about the reptilian agenda, where we'll see that the greatest ignorance and the greatest detachment from themselves is in East Africa. And that is where we're going to be battling for the minds and hearts of our people, beloveds. It's not going to be all of Africa. The religious psychosis is not everywhere. And there's a lot of people who practice both. They'll go to the juju man on Saturday and church on Sunday. But I share this just to share a cautionary tale to those in these countries, for you to know that that is where it will be the hardest for people to disconnect from the Babylon system. And that is where we're seeing the Babylon system entrench it itself. And right now we're being led by former World Economic Forum, puppets the world over, from the Trudeaus of this world. And guess who is one as well? Sululu Hassan. But you see, they conquered us with religion before. And their plan is to bring a neo-religion, religious movement, whether it's Islam or Christianity, because they're both the same and they both disconnect us from our own spirituality, which is our own power and our own gods. And so for you who are in those nations that I mentioned, you should know why everyone seems to have moved so far from their culture. I mean, in Kenya, we don't even have a cultural dress. Maybe the Maasai women, but We actually even had to have several competitions for a national dress. How crazy is that? The brainwashing is real, beloveds, and the change must come. But we can see that there's certain pockets. I don't want to, I think you get my point. Because even in our prayers and meditations, that is where we're going to have to send the most energy to liberate our people. And it's right smack down, bam, where I am. Babylon always likes to make themselves seem or appear larger than life when they're not. And it's all about a story. They came with a story, but we've never had the chance to revisit that story with our own people or amongst our own people. And Christianity has gotten so deep in Africa that now African pastors are setting up mega churches in Europe for African congregations, but still. And if you went and saw what some of these people are preaching, it's crazy. But we will have to, because of such a big push from Christianity to take over Africa and make Africa the biggest place where Christianity is by 2060. Of course they want that. We will have to now take the message of the new African, the new dispensation, the new spiritual dispensation of our people to the people. And we're not doing it alone, and we're not doing it in our own power. This war has already been taken over by the spirit of Africa, the spirit of our ancestors, the spirit of the ancient ones, the spirit of the original creators, the spirit of Mwenye Hinya, Mwenye Nyaga. And so all we can hope to be at such a time as this is mediums, conduits, chosen ones to carry this new evangelical message to our people because they need it. We can't allow people to die out of ignorance. If you know and you choose Babylon Jesus, that's your fault and you have what's coming to you. But so many just don't know, and those are the ones that many who are awakening, who feel they are teachers, those are the ones you'll be sent to, beloveds. Because the great revolution amongst our people always happens when we come together. When those from the divided states mix with us, mix with the Europeans, and we bring our thoughts. That's that mastermind vibe. And it's growing. But soon we're going to have to get out there. Because the preachers are in the villages, they're in the most remote places where our people can't hear us. But there's a beautiful lady who shared a message with me. Because I was talking about how sometimes the wind gets so loud. And she said, spirit moves in the wind. Our ancestors move in the wind. And she actually told me that the wind carries my message to those who may not have internet. And I found that so powerful and mind-blowing in terms of just the possibilities, the spiritual possibilities that are there for us to connect. What do we mean by telepathy? And did telepathy die? No. Telepathy is just something that the current rulers can't experience, so they tell you it doesn't exist. So as we continue to meditate for the total liberation of our people, remember East Africa in your meditations and prayers, beloveds, because this is the original place, and yet this is the strongest, this is where they have the strongest stronghold. Tuko pamoja.